With the Venmo debit card, you can turn the mini golf outing your coworkers paid you back for into a trip to Miami with your best friend, earning you up to 5% cash back. Use Venmo to pay for the things you love to do. Visit venmo.me/debit to learn more. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Terms apply. Dosh cashback terms apply.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome back to What's Up Waco, the podcast that loves to introduce you to the people, the places, and the properties that make Waco an excellent community to live. Hey everybody, welcome back to What's Up Waco with your host Erica Boisvert, and today I am joined by Jaja Chen. Hello.
So excited to be here with you.
I am so excited to meet you. You're one of those people in kind of like the Waco business community that you just have a stellar reputation and you're doing really cool things. And so I'm probably going to fangirl a little bit because you're one of the people I've wanted to meet ever since I started this podcast.
So excited.
Thanks for being here. So I want to dig kind of back in. I know what it's become, but when you first opened up Cha, what was the thought then? Like when you guys first were like, hey, let's do this, what were you kind of planning in that moment?
Yeah, so we opened in summer of 2018 as a boba tea pop-up tent at the Waco Downtown Farmers Market. And at that point, a lot of our vision for the business was really a side hustle to really showcase Asian cuisine and more diverse food and drink offerings that we were unable to access here in Waco, especially as myself and my husband are immigrants and children of immigrants from China and Taiwan. And so we would oftentimes go outside of Waco to find the food and drinks and even cultural traditions that we grew up cherishing. And so in Waco, it was a lot harder to find authentic cuisine and diverse offerings at the time back in 2018. And so, so that's really where the initial vision came from to increase more options and cultural traditions and events, and then also to offer that to the community.
That's amazing. So I have to ask, because here we are in Little Waco, Central Texas, when you were like, we have boba, were people like, what is that?
Yeah, definitely took a while for education, right, of the product, because boba tea is a very unique drink that at the time there wasn't as many options for that. And so at the farmers market, we did a lot of sampling of the teas and the drinks and the toppings, and have to do a lot of education of, you know, where is boba from? What is boba itself? And the
why is this in my drink?
Yeah, just the understanding, right, of why folks drink boba.
Right. Okay, very cool. So where did you guys move here from?
So I moved from Taiwan to Waco to study in university at Baylor. And back in 2011. So I'm originally from Norman, Oklahoma. That's where I grew up. But then my family moved back overseas when I was in middle school. So I spent my later childhood years in China and in Taiwan.
Oh, wow. So you really, and then coming back here, you really came back to a place where there's not a lot of, or at the time, I think it's gotten a little bit better, but at the time there was really very little representation for you here.
Yeah, I mean, Waco is, at the time, and still is less than 2% Asian. So coming here as a student, especially coming from Taiwan, it was a huge culture shock for me, even though I grew up in Norman, Oklahoma, which is also a college town and also, you know, less Asians. But I think for me in Oklahoma, at least, I had my family and a lot of the family friends. My mom is huge on hospitality. And so growing up, we would have international students over at our house. And I was in charge of stirring the boba.
Oh, really?
And that's really where it started, right? My mom loved hosting meals with international students. And so we always had dinners and times of connection with a lot of folks from all over the world.
How fun.
And the boba tea was oftentimes a drink that was served for students. And then, of course, I was in charge of stirring it.
Well, you got to have a job. You got to help your mom, right?
That was when I was 7 years old.
Ah, so cute. Okay, so then fast forward, you're here, you graduate, you're moving on, and then you guys open the pop-up farmers market. It's introducing it to people, education, but then it's well received. And so what was the next step when you did your first brick and mortar location?
Yeah, so the idea behind the brick and mortar was because we spent 2 years of doing pop-ups, both through the tent for a full year at the farmer's market every Saturday, rain or shine. And then a year later, we upgraded to a boba tea truck that allowed us to grow outside of the farmer's market for catering, events, weddings. And then from there, after about 7 months of the food truck or boba tea truck, we outgrew the space pretty quickly, especially using a share kitchen. And so that's where the idea of having our own base came from. And this was in fall of 2019. And so then December of 2019 is when we officially began the construction build out for the new shop, where we were at 1001 Franklin Avenue in downtown Waco, with no idea of what was looming in 2020.
What was looming? Excellent word choice. 100%. Okay. So you're excited. You're doing the build out. And then.
Yes. So we literally were approved by the health inspections to open in March of 2020, the same week that shelter in place orders came into place here in Waco. And so I really remember all the ways that we were planning for the grand opening and so excited.
Yeah.
And then the shelter in place order occurs and we're like, okay, there's no way. Scrap the grand opening. And at that point, because we'd already done 2 years of pop-ups, we went back to what we knew, which was, okay, we know how to do to-go service. That's what we've been doing from this scrappy startup these last 2 years. And so let's just continue doing that. And so that's how we were for quite a few months without even being able to do any kind of grand opening or even dine-in service.
Yeah.
So just offering food and drinks to go.
How lucky is that you already had that business model and you could just fall back to it and say, we know this. We can do this.
I think that is something that really held us throughout the pandemic because we didn't have to change our business that much because we had already been familiar with to-go. We added on online ordering. And the only other thing that shifted at that point was adding on more food menu options because we could no longer do catering and events since so many in-person gatherings were being canceled.
Yep.
And so then instead of doing catering and events, we added on food menu options for to-go service. And that's where the pan-fried dumplings came into fruition because we did not have food initially for the first 2 years.
Okay, it was
of
all
our
boba
business.
tea.
Correct. And so the pandemic brought about online ordering and inspiration of adding on food.
Well, hey, I mean, if there's got to be a silver lining, your dumplings are definitely a silver lining coming out of that. They're so good.
Yes. And so that was a huge kind of innovation within the pandemic. And then we just continued, so the pandemic impacted so many ways and for quite a long time, about 3 years, of the business after that. So just navigating all of the challenges that it brought.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And so when you were able to open, how did that look with people finally being able to be in the space? And did you have the grand opening after, everything was lifted and we were allowed to be out and about again?
Yeah, so we actually did not have a grand opening until fall of 2021.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's a full year and a half after we officially opened at our location. And so we paired the grand opening with a rebrand of our business.
Yep.
So at the time we were initially called Waco Cha. So cha means tea in Chinese. And then we eventually changed the business name to Cha Community.
Yes.
And there was different inspirations behind that. Part of it was wanting to be open to the possibilities of opening beyond Waco.
Okay.
And so then needing to remove the name
Waco piece.
Waco
Sure.
from Cha. And also part of the original business was just tea only. So Waco Cha, Waco tea. But because we started food options throughout the pandemic, really wanting our brand name to better encapsulate everything that we offered, especially being a boba tea cafe, not just shop. And so that's where Cha Community came into the brand name, and then did the grand opening, ribbon cutting, and then official rebrand reveal.
And that was super fun too. And I feel like that's kind of taken on its own identity as well, because Cha Community has also become a very popular place to just to hang out and, sure, you have food, but I know people stay and just really enjoy their time. Yeah.
So from day one of our business, we've had the mission of wanting to bridge cultures and create community. Of course, eventually, once we had our shop space, that allowed us to really embody what community means through creating this cultural hub and space and opportunities for other small businesses and makers to pop up for events, and even to showcase, right, a lot more of the food and drink menu that we weren't able to do in a smaller space as a pop-up or food truck.
Sure.
So I think in 2020, when we first had our shop, kind of going back to how we felt, we were just so thrilled and excited to finally have our own kitchen and to be able to expand our menu.
Absolutely. Because you had all that space to use, and it wasn't a shared space. You didn't have to pack up and go or whatever. You could own the space and do what you needed 24/7.
Correct. And that's where so many new creative food and drink options started to really grow and grow. And so that mission, right, of bridging cultures, creating community, I felt like was able to really be further embodied following having that shop space.
And how is that going? Because providing the food is huge. I think I see all the time on Facebook groups, people are looking for, Asian cuisine and true, what do we have? We have 2018, we had Panda Express, maybe Ocean's Buffet, and those I don't think would qualify as.
Yeah, there wasn't as many independent-owned restaurants at the time, or just more authentic kind of cultural foods, especially for Asian cuisine. And I think the biggest thing for us is because we're so directly tied to the culture so my husband, Devin, is an immigrant from China, and I'm a second-generation Taiwanese American. So all of my family are from Taiwan and live in Taiwan.
Okay.
And that is where boba tea comes from. And so many of our food and drinks are the roots are from China and Taiwan.
So now that you've been able to expand, what are some of your favorite things that you offer?
Yeah, so menu-wise, so I think one of my favorite food options is actually called the Taiwanese cold noodles. Ooh. And it is similar to pasta salad, but has a more creamy base. So we use a peanut sauce that's made in-house with chili oil. So it's a bit spicier, but then very refreshing, especially as the weather gets hotter.
Yeah, that's a
because
good afternoon.
Because there's not a lot of oil, and it's cooling. So cold noodles, meaning it's cooling for the body. In Taiwan, it's very humid tropical weather. And Taiwan's an island. So the Taiwanese cold noodles is actually very popular when the weather gets hotter.
So what you're saying is we should all flock to Cha Community in July, August, September.
Oh, yeah. I mean, boba tea, you can have it hot, but it's usually known as an iced beverage to be able to stay cool, especially with hot weather.
That's a good point. I don't think people realize boba tea is cold.
Yeah. It is.
Because you think of tea, you think of hot tea. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, in the winter time, we do offer boba tea hot. And it is a thing, hot boba tea. But then most of the time it is iced drink.
We're so done with New Year, New You. This year, it's more you on Bumble. More of you shamelessly sending playlists, especially that one filled with show tunes. More of you finding Geminis because you know you always like them. More of you dating with intention because you know what you want. And you know what? We love that for you. Someone else will too. Be more you this year and find them on Bumble.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
And then non-menu, what's kind of your favorite thing that Cha community has become?
Well, there's so many different aspects. So one of my favorite parts of Cha community is our biannual BIPOC spring and holiday makers markets. BIPOC standing for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. So we are really huge on using our spaces and our platform to help increase understanding and awareness of other fellow minority-owned small businesses in our community, especially folks who are just starting up, because that's our roots, right? We started up as a small business for 2+ years, and so we know exactly how challenging that can be.
Yes.
Especially if you're creating products, arts, food and drinks that's embodying your culture. There's so much vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
In the process of putting out like your identity within your business. And so our BIPOC maker markets have really been a space to help bring more awareness about the new creatives and the new small businesses that are starting up around Waco, and really shining a light and helping folks to be able to then get more of their business out to the world. And so spotlighting those small businesses makers, and also creating the space for them to pop up.
That's so great. I love that not only have you built this, but you're also saying, hey, come here and build your own thing, and you can, stand on our backs while you do it. That's amazing of you and Devin to do that.
Yeah, and we do that specific event in collaboration with a local artist named Jamie Baeza. And so she's also Asian American artist, and she did all the murals for the front of our shop. So the Love You So Matcha mural we have at our Waco and Temple shop. And then also our new shop on 8th Street near Baylor campus has a really gorgeous teapot and floral mural in the front. And so she did that mural as well.
So cool.
So we collaborate with her for the BIPOC markets when it comes to planning, and she also pops up within the market.
So now getting into 2025, are you seeing kind of a cultural awareness and increase, or are you seeing the beginnings of it now that you've been building this for 6-7 years?
Yeah, I mean, that mission of bridging cultures and creating community has really transcended beyond just the food and drinks, right? So about 2.5 years ago, Devin and I, alongside other Asian leaders, started a nonprofit called Asian Leaders Network, out of our desire to see more Asian community, culture, arts being showcased throughout Waco. And so we actually, in the past 2 years, have done a biannual Lunar New Year festival and a Diwali festival last fall in partnership with the Waco Downtown Farmers Market. So kind of going full circle back to where we started. And it's been really exciting to see the ways that grassroots organization has shifted into being able to then showcase even more culture outside of just Cha community, right? But beyond us, right? So working alongside other Asian and Asian American leaders to really increase that cultural piece, right? Of being able to learn about major holidays, festivals, arts, celebrations, performances. I would have never imagined that that would be what we would be doing 7 years later after our little boba tea pop-up. I mean, back in 2018, our boba tea pop-up had 4 menu items.
Oh, gosh.
4 drinks. And it was a little side hustle that really was supposed to stay a side hustle, but just continue growing.
Look at that.
And so I think looking at that 7-year trajectory, for me as a leader, I've really felt like I had to channel a lot of courage,
I'll bet.
right? And embodiment of leadership, and really embracing what it means to be, a Taiwanese boba tea cafe co-owner. It's taken a while to get to that place, but for now in 2025, definitely so proud of the work that we've done.
Oh, gosh.
And the ways that's then allowed us to then be able to give back to our community as well.
I think you should be. I think that what you've been able to build and the awareness you've brought, and having the lunar calendar celebrations for other people who are moving to Baylor for school or coming to Waco from other states, that was something they might have been used to, and it just wasn't here, and now it is. And I think that in order to keep creating Waco as being a great place for all people, what you're building and what you're creating and introducing people to is a huge part of that.
Yeah, because I think for so long, the challenge for me and Devin was finding belonging and finding connection to, like I mentioned, the cultural traditions, foods, and drinks that we grew up having, and then feeling like, okay, we had to leave Waco or even be in Houston or Dallas or larger cities to be able to access even things like groceries or foods. And then eventually we realized, okay, in order for us to really see, you know, the flourishing of all people and the diversity that we really want to see here in Waco, we need to be part of that change. And that's what then led us to start up our business in 2018.
No, and it's perfect. And you stepped into that vulnerability and you just said, here we are. And look how well received it was. You did, I think, what every business owner dreams they could do. You found something that was missing, right? And you filled it with your culture, your knowledge, the love of hospitality, obviously, that you got from your mom, and something that you guys built together and invited the community in. And look at this. It is just blown up. I mean, really, 7 years is not that long for it to have become what it has become. That's amazing. You should be so proud.
Yeah, I am.
Can I ask, this is so way off topic, what did you study at Baylor?
I study social work. Yeah, so my undergrad and master's is in social work. My background is clinical social work. So I'm a therapist, right? Trauma therapist. I originally started working in local nonprofits prior to Cha community, and then continued in private practice, which I still actually have a very small private practice on the side, and still engaged as a clinical social worker.
Oh, okay.
And then Devin's background is engineering.
Oh, wow.
And he did that for quite a while until transitioning into education as an engineering high school teacher.
Oh, fun.
Right. And so his experience as a teacher and my experience as a social worker, both as helping professionals, really is part of what also inspired the desire to be a business owner, because we already had supported so many local small businesses and been frequent customers at the Waco Downtown Farmers Market. And then starting to see the ways that small businesses can play such a huge impact on shaping culture and creating new things in Waco. And so that is our background. We don't have a culinary or food and beverage background.
No, I love that even more, because you just stepped into something that made sense for you, and it blew up in a wonderful way.
Yeah, and neat. I think especially being a social worker for me, so much of my training and background was connected to the idea of community care. So of course I do a lot of one-on-one work through therapy, but a lot of our training was on how do we help make an impact in organizing communities, bring about change at a bigger systemic level. And so a lot of that has played into our business, the way that we build our business. And then my role specifically, which I'm in charge of marketing, communications, and I also oversee a lot of our community partnerships and any type of like nonprofit partner. I'm usually the one that's organizing that.
No, that just fits. It's right in your wheelhouse, even though you wouldn't think that this is the way it would be shown to the world through boba and delicious food. It is. And what a beautiful way to round out what you learned and be able to make this new community.
Yes.
It's great. So you kind of touched on it, but I want to let people know you do have another location opening soon.
Correct. We're opening our third shop in Waco, which is going to be on 8th Street.
Nice.
At the former UPS store. And we are opening a collaborative store. So this is a space that you cannot experience anywhere else in Waco. Right. So Norma's Florals also started up at the Waco Downtown Farmers Market. And that's how we met them initially, through the farmers market.
Oh, cool. Yep.
And so they are opening their first independent store. And then we're also coming in as a collaborator with our boba tea bar. So it's going to be part floral boutique, part boba tea bar. And then where you can find both the florals and the boba in one space.
That's
and so we're
great.
so excited for all the creativity that's coming out of this new shop. I mentioned earlier.
Collaboration.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that Jamie has already done the collaborative mural that's out on the walls already, and then we're actively painting, cleaning the shop this week to be able to get that shop up and running very soon.
Good. Okay, so no date yet, but it's coming.
Yes,
So,
this spring.
very cool. That is so exciting, and it's really neat to have watched kind of the journey that you've been on. Because we used to, at our office, get the dumplings like for lunches, and then you became Cha Community, and it's so fun to watch this growth. It's fun to see it in Waco. It's really neat. So have you found it very easy not easy per se, but have you found the small business community to be welcoming and open and supportive?
Yeah, I think that's something that makes Waco very unique and special, and what
Agreed.
keeps us here in Waco, right?
Okay.
The immense support for local small businesses, for restaurants. There are so many local people, leaders, organizations, individuals that are just so passionate about supporting local small businesses. And I think that is definitely what has helped us to be able to flourish even throughout the pandemic.
Right.
Because so many restaurants in particular, unfortunately, closed in the U.S. during the pandemic. And I think part of what helped us to continue through those challenges was the support of the local Waco community.
No, I love it. Yeah, it is a very special and unique small business community. I love the vibe here.
Yes. And, I mentioned the Asian Leaders Network. That's been a huge part of our continued community building as well. So there's been just so much support from fellow Asian small businesses, collaborations. And I just love seeing also new restaurants coming into town and folks just being excited, right, to be able to create their own cultural cuisines and to offer more in our community.
Yeah, there are a couple opening soon that I'm like, let's go. Please open those doors. So we really love what you've done. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming in today and talking about Cha Community. Is there anything that you want people to know that we didn't hit on?
I think one of the biggest things I just want folks to know is that regardless of your background, the mission of Cha Community I mentioned was bridging cultures and creating community. And part of that is really inviting people from all backgrounds to be able to experience the food, drinks, events, and through the Asian Leaders Network, even if you're not Asian, right, wanting to invite the entire community to be a part of those events that we do. Mention the festivals, Lunar New Year, Diwali Festival. Because I think a lot of times people wonder, is Cha Community or is Asian Leaders Network only geared for Asians?
Right.
But
am I allowed to be there?
I mentioned to folks, part of creating community is inviting all people to be a part of the community. And so what that means is even if you're not Asian or even if you've never been to China or Taiwan, that's why we exist, to be able to invite folks to be able to experience authentic cultural cuisine, traditions, events, even if you're not ever able to go to China or Taiwan, right, to be able to really experience that here in Waco and not have to leave our community to be able to access that. That's a big thing I want to emphasize for folks.
Perfect. Yeah, you don't have to go to Austin. You don't have to go to Dallas or Houston. You can stay right here and experience it.
Yes.
Very good. Well, thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. I am so excited that you came in, and I really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So if you want to learn more about Cha Community or see what all the fuss is about with those dumplings, please be sure to check the show notes. We will have all the links to their social and website. And don't forget to go check them out and just say hi and hello and learn a little bit. And that is Cha Community, and this is What's Up Waco.
Do you have a topic you want to talk about? Do you have questions about Waco, the real estate market, how to sell your house, what to look for when you're buying a home? Send me an email, ericasellstexas@gmail.com. Shoot me a text, 254-447-0180. Happy to chat about it. Find me anywhere you listen to your podcasts or at roguemedianetwork.com.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.